Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's very special best practices webinar. It's a little bit early. I'm one minute early. It's 11:29. So I just want to, first of all, welcome everybody. And we have a great panel today that covers 4 different states, lots of different types of districts, big districts, small districts, rural, city. And so they're going to share with us a lot of insights. No pressure, Jeannie, Bill, Sean, and Travis, but a lot of insights on not just what they're thankful for, but how they got to where they are, how they're, for instance, driver shortage, how they were able to overcome a driver shortage going into the new year, new school year, that is. So we have a lot that we're going to cover today. Obviously, we always want your participation. We want these to be very interactive. So you'll see a comment section where you can put in your thoughts or your questions. So if you have a thought you want to share with a specific panelist, or you want to ask the entire panel, that's great. The other thing is, if you want to give your own thoughts. So if we're talking about something and it resonates with you and you want to share something that has worked for you or that you're thankful for, put that in there. And I will always get that to the top of the discussion because it's always good to have everybody's interaction there. If you want to tell me a little bit about where you, in upstate New York, where we are, it is rainy and cold. And I think it's like in the 30 degree, McKenzie, 30 degrees, maybe mid 30s. Not great. So tell me where it is in your neck of the woods, as the meteorologists always say on Good Morning America. But without further ado, I want to let you also know that these webinars are always, there. You can go to the next slide. These webinars are always recorded and they are usually posted the very next day, sometimes the same day, on our YouTube channel, which you can find at transfinder.com. Just at the very top, you'll see the YouTube icon. And this is useful because if somebody makes an argument that you've been trying to make, we talked yesterday during our dry run about certain tools that this one panelist said, I wish we had. You know what, you have a recording, you can share that with your superintendent, you can share that with your school board, and be able to hear what somebody else has said about that tool and why it was valuable to them, and maybe let them help to make your case. So all of our webinars are on our YouTube channel and they're pretty easy to find. So make sure you check those out. And we do want to have a webinar at the end of the year. And so we're going to have a closing poll on that, where you can tell us what date works best for you. I'll give you a little teaser, December 12th or December 19th. So be thinking about that. You can go to the next slide, McKenzie, thank you. And now I want to just welcome our panelists. Travis Cheatham, he's out of Waco, Texas. A lot warmer weather there, I bet, Travis, than it is here.
Yeah, we started off at 32 this morning, but we're up to 72 this afternoon. So a big swing.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We have Jeannie Del Rio in Utah. What's Utah like? What's the weather like?
We are cold. We started out below freezing this morning. We're up to about 45 right now.
Okay.
And I think our high is supposed to be right about 50. But
okay.
We've had snow. Several of our ski resorts are open. And
wow. Okay. All right.
Yep.
We have one of our clients is Anchorage, Alaska, and they said from October to like maybe April or May, their school bus tires are not hitting pavement until May. Is that you too, Jeannie? No, okay.
No, we hit pavement most of the time. They keep it pretty clear. They've gotten it down. I've lived in Utah except for about 11 years, and they've gotten it down to where the salt and the clearing the roads and everything. But I was in Fairbanks last year in January at negative 44 degrees, which I went, oh my gosh, I didn't know you could be that cold.
They warm up the buses. When the buses hit 40 something degrees, then it's okay for them to start picking up kids.
Right.
It's a different world. Bill Walden, who is in El Paso, but not Texas, in Illinois. You probably get that all, Bill, you're probably like confused, right, when they think El Paso?
Oh yeah, we do. So
It's like Miami, Ohio. It's like, what's up with that?
yeah,
So,
it doesn't ring right, does it?
and then we got Sean McKenzie, last but not least, in South Burlington School District in Vermont, not too far from where I am. Sean, thanks for joining us.
How you doing?
Great. And you can see a mix of the job titles and the, I'm sorry, Sean, what were you going to say?
It said it's 46 and raining. You
Okay,
asked
so
about-
we're in the same, you got 10 degrees on us maybe, but
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I just want to thank you so much for your time, for and for the insights I know you're going to share with us. So I'm just going to start with Jeannie, and then we'll work our way down from Bill, Sean, and Travis. Tell us a little bit about your job title, a little bit about your career, kind of, short but just brief. What's the expression? Short but sweet. And then a little bit about your district, in terms of, is it rural, is it suburban, and how many kids you're transporting. And so we'll go again, Jeannie, Bill, Sean, and Travis. Jeannie.
I am the Maintenance and Transportation Administrative Assistant. In transportation, I am assigned the routing and the field trips. So I do all of the routing for our district. We are only 10 schools. We have just a little over 6,000 students. We transport about 1,000 of them every day. And we're very suburban, and we are kind of landlocked. We're kind of like the Seychelles in Africa, that we're a small district that has giant districts on either side of us. And I don't see, people have always asked if we're going to get swallowed up by one of them. And I don't think Murray City will allow that. They like their small, intimate district. But we are very much high density housing in the area. So we have a lot of in and out and renters. And so it's a constant revolving door. My background is actually business marketing, and I taught high school and then came back to Utah from California and started working in the school district as a educational support teacher, and then followed a director around and ended up at Murray School District last year in July. So I've been here a year and a half and didn't have any transportation background, but just jumped into it. My director said, the kids will see the school bus, they will get on it, you'll be fine. And a year and a half later, I'm still here and I'm fine.
That's great. You lived to tell the tale.
Right.
Very good. Well, thank you. Bill?
Yeah, I'm in a small rural district, really. We've got about, maybe 12 to 1,300 students. We transport 700 of them. So it's all farming community around me. It's a real intimate school district, as you're talking about. It's the administration is real close. They work closely with us. I came from a computer technology background in a mid-sized insurance company. And so when I came here, there was no tech, they weren't using any technology. And that was just in July of this year, by the way.
Wow.
But there was no technology being used. And so I found several vendors that sold this type of software, went through their goes of how to use their software, evaluated them, ended up buying Transfinder. So we're really just in the process on Transfinder of getting the routes set up right now. So
Great.
it's
Awesome.
interesting for me, and it's going to be fun, I think.
That's great. Well, thanks so much, Bill. Yeah, it's neat that you played a big role in bringing the technology. So your legacy already, I mean, you're going to be leaving the district in a better, which is going to be many years from now, but you're going to be leaving them in a better place than you found it.
It can be too many years. I'm not that young.
Well, thank you so much. Sean?
How you doing?
Great.
Been a bus driver for 10 years, and currently last 3 years I've been the transportation coordinator. We're a rural town. We have about 2,500 students. We transport around 1,300. We have 3 elementary schools, a middle and high school.
Very good. So you worked your way up from being a school bus. Did you move into the office at some point and work your way up from within the office?
Yeah, I moved in the office a few years ago. We had a manager that left due to an illness, and kind of stepped in to help out, and it just kind of morphed into more of a full-time, well, driving and coordinator position, doing routes and a little bit of everything.
Very good. Very good. Last but not least, Travis.
Hi, I am the routing supervisor at Waco ISD in Waco, Texas. We have about 13,000 students here. We transport between about 2,000, 2,500 students here. Currently we have 27 general education routes and then 13 special education routes. And then for me, I also just started in June. I come from like a family engagement and then truancy background. So the last 2 years I worked a lot with, did a lot of home visits, meeting with families, kind of analyzing the data for our students. And that's kind of what's they were really looking for in our role, is kind of amp up our technology and kind of the way we kind of analyze our routes as the routing supervisor.
Very good. Thanks so much, Travis. Just to kind of set the table, we are talking the week before Thanksgiving, so I might make a few allusions to turkey, and we had a couple email blasts that went out. We talked about like our technology being the gift that keeps Thanksgiving, and all those really bad tongue-in-cheek play on words. But anyway, this is what you saw. Those of you who registered even for the webinar saw this. Thanks, the acrostic there, timely arrivals, keeping kids on track, helping hands from drivers and staff. I hear a lot about that. We're going to talk about collaboration today. Always reliable. People definitely, you guys are like the Postal Service, rain, snow, sleet, if school is open, they're depending on you. And so reliability is such a great word. Navigating routes with care and precision. We know that every one of the routes and stops you create, and using our technology, it's a joy that we can be a part of that process, but you do that with care and precision. Each one of those little precious lives, we got to be careful, make sure that someone was talking yesterday about just even the feedback you get from drivers to make change, or from parents to change a stop. If one may look good on paper, but not good in practice. Kindness shown to everyone on board. I think our jobs get a lot better when we're kind to one another. And then safely delivering students, our top priority. That's really what it's all about. So we're going to touch on a little bit of those things. And then I do want to take a poll. Actually, why don't we just do a quick poll? Why don't we just do the poll now, McKaylee? I'm going to ask, unlike most of our polls where we kind of force you to pick one answer, this is the survey on what you're thankful for, and we have 2 polls coming up. We're not going to make you pick one, but unless you really have to pick all 5. What are you most thankful for in relation to your job? Is it the people you work with? Maybe you don't necessarily like school transportation or the technology or whatever, but it's the people and the mission. It's getting kids back home and to school safely every day. It's the technology. You just love it. I have one client I interviewed who told me, I literally am having fun working with the software. It's fun. It's like a game. The atmosphere. You just like the atmosphere. The work environment. It's a thriving, lively place. Lots of laughs, which I kind of goes with the people, but it's also that it's a professional environment. Maybe it's just a new building or something. And then lastly, the leadership at your district, that you feel like they totally get what you're doing and you feel supported. So I'm going to actually ask our panel, you can keep that up for a little bit so we give people a chance to lock in their votes. But Travis, if you had to vote on that, the panelists are not allowed to vote, unfortunately, in these, but what would you say is the thing that you're most thankful for in relation to your job?
So I am definitely most thankful for on here, like the people I work with. And when I got the initial invitation for this webinar, what stuck out to me was the helping hands. I don't come from a transportation background originally. But the level of collaboration like you see in transportation is really impressive. The way that like anybody and everybody hops on routes and covers for each other and finds out ways to transition. You know, for me, I'm not a CDL certified person, and so I try to check with our dispatch to see like, you know, can someone else hop on a route and I can assist in the office. And so like the way that works and seeing everyone, you know, come together, because you do have to make quick decisions in this industry. And so that's what I'm most thankful for.
That's great. Thank you. Bill, how about you? What would you say on this vote, on this list here?
Well, I have obviously technology. I just told you I bought technology to do the job, but really it's the leadership probably would stand out the most at our district. There were two guys here that are administrators in the school that had previously done the job that I'm doing. And they've been extremely helpful to me. They hit the ground running to figure out what I need to do, what's the most important thing coming up, how to schedule all my extracurriculars that I have going on. So really the people that I've had an opportunity to work with, our superintendent, she's just really good. If I have a question, she answers it. Otherwise, she just says, what do you think? Do the job, you know? And so I get to work pretty independently, and I'm kind of an independent person. So that works well too. So the leadership at the district is really good for me.
That's great. That says a lot. And I want to dive in a little bit more about that assimilation and how they helped you later on. We get to that. How about you, Sean? On that list, what would you say?
Well, I think I agree that technology is great, but I think it comes down to the people. And I know we talked yesterday about, you know, we had a couple of routes that we had to do rolling cancellations, and it comes down to just the whole community, you know, the drivers, the aides, even the students on the bus, the parents, the administration, teachers in the schools, just everybody being, you know, just kind of on the same page and just being very understanding about, you know, what we have to do to be able to get the kids to school and to get as many kids as safely as possible to school that we can.
Very good. Thank you. And Jeannie, your thoughts?
Well, Gal, I think they all apply to all of us, but the atmosphere here at Murray City School District is awesome. It is small enough. Like I said, I came from a huge district that had, you know, 48 schools, and I'm down to 10 schools. And on my complex, we have 3 buildings that we're housed in away from the main administration building, but we collaborate. And like I told you yesterday, I had the superintendent sitting in my office as we rerouted and added a school that didn't have busing, added that school. She walked over several times and met with me and looked at the routing possibilities and the things that were there. And at different times, these key directors will jump in and say, oh, what's happening there? Can we help? Do you need some help? We've lost a kid, we've done whatever. Even though it's not their main focus, they're willing to walk across the compound or do what they can do from their offices to support us. So, you know, having that superintendent walk across to me, who was one of the newer employees of the district, was phenomenal. And I even met up with her one day. I didn't even know she was not too far from my neighborhood in a grocery store. And she's like, I didn't know you lived over here. And, you know, she was just so pleasant and supportive, and looked at my husband and said, you know, we are so glad Jeannie is here with us and that she switched and came over. So that atmosphere that nobody is above another person, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to help you be successful in your position.
That is huge. That is good. We're going to dive into all those. You guys touched on a lot of things there. Thank you. Michaela, you want to show us the results here? Okay, number 1 is the people they work with. Now, again, this is not going to add up to 100 because we let everybody, I didn't want to be mean this time. Tony, our CEO, so not that he's mean, by the way. but likes to force people to pick, specifics, which I think is definitely useful. But number 2 would be the mission, which I know is, like Jeannie just said, is definitely, they all apply to everybody. Number 3 is the atmosphere. Number 4, the technology. And then last is the leadership. So, and 2 of you touched specifically on leadership. So very good. You can go back to the panel slide now. I think we'll go to that one. So I want to start with you, Sean, because you hit a nerve yesterday. We know that many districts across the country are dealing with a driver shortage. So that was the first thing you volunteered yesterday when you said, I had a driver shortage going into the school year. Tell me a little bit about that, set the table for us a little bit, and then how it got resolved and what maybe some of the factors were to help resolve it.
Yeah, so we started the year off with 2 routes that we had no drivers for at all. We ended up having to do a rolling cancellation where we had, like I said, we had 2 routes with no drivers. We'd cancel 2 other routes, and those drivers would do the routes that were, basically throughout the week, everybody took turns doing the 2 routes that we had no drivers for. And we actually did that for a couple of months. And what we did with that is we did, the cancellation was the same. The canceled buses were the same day every week, so at least we had good communication with the parents. It was easier for them to plan by having it that way. And really what it took to rectify that was the administration and the school board saw the need for, to fix that and had to raise salaries for, had to raise the pay for the drivers.
And it wasn't little, right? You said it wasn't a little amount that they raised it. It wasn't like
Yep. And that was the only way that we could get people to apply for positions.
Are you now? Go ahead.
So and now we are in a better spot. We have more, we have more drivers. I even spent today reworking some of the routes to be able to utilize those new drivers that we have now.
And you also combined routes to kind of get by when you had to, but you still had the rolling routes that were areas that were not covered. But you did combine routes as well. I think you mentioned as well.
Yeah, there were a couple years before that. We had a couple people retire and just weren't able to find people to take over those routes, and we had to absorb those. We had 2 routes actually, and we had to absorb those into the other routes that we had, and that was not necessarily difficult with the with having Route Finder Plus, but it was still hard on the drivers having having the extra kids, and it ended up at times being kids that they didn't know. So there was that factor of trying to learn, learn parts of new routes and learn new kids, and the same with the rolling, with the rolling cancellations where, it took a couple of weeks for people to get used to, used to doing those routes and used to the kids, because you need to have it, at least a little bit of knowledge of the kids, as to be able to, be successful.
How did you lobby the school board? Like, was it from the transportation department, or was it parents going to school board meetings saying, why are my kids not getting?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit I think it was just a little bit of everything. I think it was just the administration, realized that there was a desperate need for it. I mean, it was affecting the time that the kids got to school, which affected, and there was a lot of budgetary concerns over that too, because the kids weren't getting, they're not getting to school on time to meet their educational needs.
Right. Well, thank you, Sean. Yeah, I had to bring that one to the top, because that is, anybody who here, I'm going to throw this out to those watching our attendees. Anybody out there dealing with a driver shortage? And if so, would a pay raise of $7 an hour help maybe change that situation? Jeannie, you had something very specific you were thankful for. I know it's a little self-promotional here, but you said it on your own. What were you most thankful for?
Oh my gosh. Tell me what I said yesterday. I don't remember.
About the training you received and the folks, Liz,
Oh, yeah,
Candace.
Liz and Joe and Candace. It was a sink or swim situation. I had minimal training as the girl I replaced went on to the high school, and they had updated from, I guess, pro to plus. I'm not sure what they were running before, but they had ported over like 2 weeks before I got here, and she didn't know how some of the things worked, so I was left to grasp and figure them all out. And um, I tried. I thought I was a great connoisseur of learning new software, but it was had it not been for the help of the webinars, and especially those three, Joe and Liz quite often would, after a webinar was done, said, I'm going to reach back out to you and help you with this and find out a couple more things, because it's like, how does that look in my environment as opposed to Bill's or Sean's or Travis's? And so they would reach back out even for the little things. Some days I had to say, okay, dumb it down for me, because I didn't grow up with computers. When I first started school teaching, that was when I really started getting more into the computers. So those webinars were key in helping me out, because other people had the same questions. So sometimes I'd jump on the webinars and I'd go, okay, I know that, I know that, I know that. Oh, there's something new that someone else is experiencing. And so having dual screens, I could look at the webinar and play with it on my other screen and walk through that, because I'm a very much hands-on person with the softwares. I don't want to read it. I want to be, walk through it. So they were great.
They wouldn't let you go if you seemed a little bit hesitant. So
No, and they would follow up. It was a wonderful thing.
For those who don't know what she's talking about, it's not like our webinar here, which is more open. We have non-clients on here. We're really trying to brainstorm what can help everybody in school transportation have a better operation. So that's the purposes of these webinars. But this is the twice a day during the summer, correct? The hotline.
Correct.
Yeah. So it is a new thing. We had the hotlines. We still have hotlines all year round, but we really beef it up during the summer, twice a day. And it's open-ended, no agenda, just taking questions. And so, yeah, those keep increasing in attendance, and the feedback has been tremendous. So that was really, really good to hear. And I want to make sure we got to that. Before I go to Bill and, well, Bill, I guess is the last one. And Travis, I have a question for you as well. I do want to ask a question for Sean, and if anybody else wants to jump in, feel free. Marcia asked, what are the advantages to rolling routes over consolidating the open routes in your existing? So, having rolling versus just, why not consolidate even more?
No, I think what I said before is we already had some consolidation to begin with, and we tried doing trying to take one of those, like when we had one canceled route, sometimes we could combine it with other routes, do a split. It just got to a point where it was just too much. We were doing it too often. The buses were always overcrowded. It just made more sense to do a rolling cancellation and just cancel a bus. It wasn't an easy decision to make, but it just made the most sense to be, just to be safe.
What you said was the way you did it was like it was consistently like Thursday was this route, like it was able to be kind of easy to remember, like, okay, this is the period that we're not going to have transportation, right? It was
so every day was the same. Monday through Friday, it was the same 2 buses every day, so at least parents knew in advance, so they could plan it better. So they knew, like, every Tuesday my bus is canceled.
Got it.
I need to make arrangements.
Travis, you talked about you touched on the collaboration piece, and while you don't have a CDL, I don't think you have an interest in getting a CDL, but you might get pressure someday, maybe, I don't know. But
Oh, I've had pressure.
what's that?
I said, oh, I've had pressure, but it's okay.
But you see how everybody jumps in somewhere, and so you may help out a dispatcher who does have a CDL, so you might slide into their spot, play a role. Just talk a little bit about the collaboration and what you're new to the district, and tell me, how do you think that has gotten fostered, and how do you build on that?
Yeah, I think, even though technology and like improvements is like a #1 factor for us, culture was like the #1 conversation we had when I interviewed for the position, and like what the future looks like. Because one of the interesting things for us is this is our first year in district. So we always contracted out our transportation for the past 30 years, maybe even more than that, for Waco ISD. And so it's the first year in-house, which the great thing about that is it's an opportunity for change. There's a lot of things that change in that process. And so like, what are our intentional things about that? And so culture is one of the #1 things that we're trying to foster, is having a positive environment to work for, but also the ways we help each other. And so, pretty much all of our office staff has a CDL. I'm one of the people that doesn't. But like where I fit in on that is, I try to pay attention to like, what does our board look like on coverage? Do we have a lot of field trips out today? Or, did we have a lot of call-ins and sick, special situations? And then maybe I can go and help in the dispatch office and somebody else can actually hop on a route. We even, have had our assistant director hop on route before. And so just trying to see that how we can each cover each other in different situations is huge. A big part of that also is like for our culture is we're really working on continuous improvement and like kind of owning mistakes. So it's like mistakes happen, we own those mistakes, and then it's like, okay, but how do we learn from that? Like, what is the next thing we can do? So we're constantly like evaluating that, even like working with our families, like how can we make this better? Like give us that feedback, what are the ways we can do that overall?
I really like that idea of a culture that like you're gonna make mistakes. It's sometimes when you're reaching, I remember when I got hired at Transfinder, it's almost 11 years now. It's like, you're gonna try some stuff that's not gonna work. It's okay. That actually frees you up to feel like you always have to hit a home run. It's like, that's a lot of pressure, I mean, even Aaron Judge didn't always hit a home run. I'm a Mets fan, but I'm using him. But,
yeah,
so to have that freedom, and then I like what you said also, Travis, about like you do gotta own it still. You gotta own it, but then how do we work?
And that's an important part of that process. It's like, just admit when you make a mistake, and then we can work through it. If we can't at least do that, then we can't really communicate very well.
Right. Very good. Bill, you talked about. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to add one other thing I mentioned yesterday, but I forgot to mention today. Is one of our odd claims to fame this year that I mentioned was we track every day how many route changes we make. And as of Monday this week, we hit 1,000 different route changes. Now that may be like literally just barely moving a stop from here to here for safety for our family. But that's kind of our commitment to that constant improvement, is we are really constantly reevaluating what is going to be best. How do we do that? We have a lot of, students that are coded homeless and, other special programs. And so how do we, assist those different situations? And so that's something I think tracking that data is really useful for us to know what we're really doing and accomplishing.
And it also sends a message, because you mentioned, I think yesterday, that some of those recommendations came from parents, correct?
Yeah, definitely.
So what's that message that you're sending to your community? Is we're responsive, we hear you. Sometimes I know I've had many different transportation directors on in the past, like we can't accommodate everything that they ask. Sometimes some have also said that they kind of feel like sometimes the school transportation is like a private limousine or Uber service, and it's not. But when there's a safety issue and you're responding saying, oh, okay, yeah, that corner, that is not a good place, that just sends a huge message.
Yeah, and I think that's also one of the beauties of using like Route Finder Plus is like the travel scenarios and the ways you can kind of build that in. So it's like you're always getting better. to where like I have like certain intersections where it's like you're allowed to go in this intersection, you're not allowed to come out of that intersection because it's easy to turn in, but coming out, the traffic comes too tightly around the corner, you know? So things like that is a huge help.
That's great. You know, we talk a lot about AI. I know people get nervous about artificial intelligence, and we talk about it. We use the expression AIO, which is artificial intelligence optimization. And I think at the highest level, it can do maybe like 85% of a you know, route, but not of a route, but for a district, it can help at that level. But it always needs a human touch, because, and I think that's by design, really, because you do want human eyes looking at it, not just pushing a button, because there are some things like, even like, you know, a morning run, that may be a great stop, or that may be a great street to use, but in the afternoon, for whatever reason, it's not. And that's just the way it is. That's the way our region is. And so you guys have that institutional knowledge, both of the district, but also of your communities. And so nobody wants to replace, I don't think we want to replace that, a little bit of that hands-on. Bill, talking about assimilating, I think that was a word you used yesterday, and I like that word, into, you know, you've had a varied career in technology, insurance, you also are what was the thing you said? You build something. What was it that you built?
Yep, custom cabinetry.
Cabinetry, that's it. Many talented Renaissance guy here. Do you cook as well, by the way?
I do, actually.
Okay, and you play the violin or something?
No, I have no musical talent.
Okay, we finally found. So my wife always like that. My wife always like says, "Did you do this?" I'm like, "Yes, yes, yes." And then she keeps going until she gets the one thing on my list that I didn't do. I'm like, "Okay, you finally got it. You found it." So I finally got it, Bill. I hope my wife doesn't watch this webinar. But
Yeah.
You used the word assimilate into that role, and your predecessors, who I think you said were vice principals or they took on that role for a while and went back. Tell me a little bit about how they helped you get up to speed, and basically how that's going to help you get your predecessor up to speed. What maybe you learned from that experience, and maybe other people watching this can say, "Oh, I'm going to try that approach when I'm trying to get somebody on board."
So last year I was a full-time driver, and in about March of last year, or March of this year, I'm sorry, I found out that I was going to take this job. And so I stayed driving until about mid-April, and then they cut my route in half and put somebody else on the afternoon and moved me into the office to start learning. And so I started out just kind of observing what they were doing, or what Andy, my predecessor, was doing. And then he showed me all his worksheets, because at that time we were all manual, we had no technology. So he showed me all of his spreadsheets that he had, and his calendar, and how he worked between those two things to make sure he wasn't missing any events or route changes for the day. And so then after he did that, he said, I moved into my own office away from him in another small town. And I still stayed in contact, and he would come over here and sit with me whenever I needed it during the summer, to help me figure out how to do all the routing and all the, make sure I had all the events scheduled for next year that we already had. So he helped me through all that. And Dan, who's in this building, was the transportation director before Andy. And so Dan comes up, and if I need something, he'll just talk to me about it, you know, and make sure I meet with Dan. He's the athletic director, so I meet with him every week anyhow, to make sure I have all the events that are going on in the middle school. And then I have a meeting with the athletic director in the high school every week to make sure we got that. So all those guys have helped me to kind of make sure that I'm not messing up somewhere.
That's great. And they were also supportive. And I think you talked about some of the tech. You didn't just stop with Route Finder Plus. You brought in other technology as well that I think Travis was like a little jealous of, but we'll get to that in a minute. Tell us a little bit about that and how that's helped you guys.
Well, we haven't got there yet to where we're actually fully engaged in all that. So at Christmas time, we're going to put the tablets into our buses. And we'll start that, what is that, Wayfinder?
Yes.
So we'll start using Wayfinder probably the start of the new year. What I'll do is I'll turn on a couple people to it and let them use it and make sure that we're getting assimilated to that one at a time so that I can help. And by the end of the year, I think I'll have everybody on that. We'll do all our time reporting and everything off of that by the end of the year. I'll just run reports once a month. And, we'll do our checklist, our pre-trip check and our post-trip check will all be done on Transfinder or Wayfinder on the tablet.
Attendance as well, take attendance on it.
We probably won't take attendance on it yet. The school does pretty well at that. What I will do is probably have them touch their face when they come on the bus. At that stop to make sure that we know who's on there. If we would
That's
have,
what I mean by it. Yeah, ridership.
Yeah. So if we would have an accident or something, I want to know who's on that bus.
Right. And you can have all their information there too. They're allergic to certain things or their blood types. I think you can have pretty much anything you want in there, you can have in there. So even like if they're allergic to bee, the kid ever gets stung on by a bee, you can know if there's a child on there that's allergic to bee. All that kind of stuff is super valuable.
Peanut allergies seem to be a big thing around here. So I really don't want kids eating on the bus. So, yeah. That's a new thing this year that we've kind of started. And for one, it keeps the bus a lot cleaner if they can't eat or drink on it. The other thing is if a kid gets on there and touches something with peanut oil on his hands, and then the next kid comes in that's got a peanut allergy, he's in trouble right away. He's going to have a severe reaction. I don't want that. So
anybody else have that kind of policy?
We don't allow eating on the buses at all. It's just messy.
Okay, good. Do you still allow paper football? Remember paper football? You can't actually, you have to be buckled in now, don't you?
No, we don't. In Illinois, you don't have to be buckled into the bus.
Okay. Because I used to play, you remember paper football? You fold it, it's like a triangle, and then.
Oh, no, we don't have that kind of stuff going on either. I really want the kids sitting in the seat facing forward because the back of the seat in front of them is their safety net.
That's right. That's right.
If you get hit or somebody, I had a guy that I used to work with that worked for the bigger school district south of us. And he got killed on a bus where a semi driver came across a median on the interstate and hit them head on, and he got killed. And the kids survived, all of them, because they were sitting in their seats correctly, because he was the monitor on that bus, and that's what he was making them do. And
wow.
So they all survived. But Charlie, my friend, ex-boss, he died in that wreck. So
wow, that's like harrowing, really. Bill, real quick while I've got you, since you brought in Transfinder technology and you brought in the parent app too, am I not mistaken, the Stop Finder, or no?
Yeah.
Okay. How did you come to did you look at other things out there, or did you talk to neighboring districts and you heard things? How did we bubble up to that point where you decided to go with us?
Well, I went out on the internet, having been a kind of a computer guy before, and I started searching. And then I found some school districts around me, and I talked to a couple of them, and they were using Transfinder. And then I went and I scheduled a preview or a review of your products with your salespeople, and I did that with several other companies, three or four other companies. I don't even remember their names now. But I went through all of them, and I kind of had a little checklist of what I was looking for. And the checklist kept growing as I reviewed more and more systems, and I ended up settling on Transfinder. I did software reviews and proposals for the company that I worked for before. So I had an idea how to do that.
Very good. Sean, you've been quiet for a little bit. What's on your mind? What are you thankful for? You know, you have what other software products do you have of ours?
We use Route Finder Plus, we use Stop Finder and Wayfinder.
Okay, I thought so. And how have they been working for you? How have they helped you in terms of staying connected with the parents? Are the parents communicating? Are you using it as two-way communication?
We do a little bit, not that much. We use a different system that we have for notifying parents of you know, of cancellations and bus changes. But as far as the technology itself, we have you know, I don't have a number, but we have quite a few that are using both, you know, are using the Stop Finder and you know, they rely on it for knowing where the, you know, where the bus is. It's kind of funny because a lot of times they'll, you know, if people miss the, you know, if a parent misses the bus, they'll actually track down where the bus is and meet it someplace else to
Oh, really?
get their kids on the bus. And
Okay.
the Finder's been great. Like I said, with the cancellations that we had to do, they've been great with a driver that's not necessarily familiar with a you know, with a particular area. You just, you know, you can pull it right up on Wayfinder and just use it as a, you know, like a regular GPS. And
Do all your buses have Wayfinder on them?
yes, yep.
Okay. Because I have one district that I talked to before who they were still piloting it. So I think they had like 5, and they had more than 5 buses, and they had subs that said, "I'll only do it if I have the Wayfinder or the tablet." They probably, I don't know, they used our brand name, but they said, "I'll only do it if I get the tablet." Is it a good recruiting tool for you if you're trying to get subs to say, "Hey, look, there's no, you don't have to be anxious. You can even do a dry run using the tablet without even."
Yeah, and that's kind of what I did when we introduced it. I actually let a couple of people, I said, here, if you want, take it home, you can check it out, you know, look at your route, or even, you know, whatever, any route that you want, because you can pull up, you know, any route that, you know, that your district has. And just like you said, you just kind of check it out and check out the, you know, different features on it. And
That's
I
great.
think not just the GPS feature, but the, you know, having the, you know, when you get to a stop, it comes up with the child's, if you have it set up, you have the child's picture, you have their name and grade, and like you said, with different, there could be like little different icons that you could put in there, whether they're, you know, kindergarten, or if they have an allergy, you could have a, you know, an icon for that. That I think that was a great tool for us, and even been trying to get more of the drivers used to it. There's also a feature on there when you're at a stop, you can, where it goes to add a student. And the nice thing about that is that you type in a student's name, and all you need to do is have a part of it. So if you've got a kid that, you know, knows only his first name and doesn't know his last name or where he lives, you type in, say it's John, so anything with a first or last name that has John on it will come up. And it's not just kids that are designated on a route, it's everybody in the district that's in Route Finder Plus will come up. And then you can, you know, like I said, if you've got a child that doesn't know where he lives, you can, you know, it helps narrow it down. You don't always have a picture of them with that, but at least you have, you know, at least you have something to start with.
Well, they do talk about the picture and having the student name, how it makes even like a substitute can say, "Good night, Johnny," and literally the kid turning around with a smile on his face. Probably not a high school kid. I don't know. Do they smile anymore? But, you know, feeling loved, feeling like they belong. I mean, little things like that go a long way. And then we talked, we were kind of giving Travis a hard time about not having these route sheets on your laps, which is probably not a great idea. When,
Yeah.
So Jeannie, I want to get to you for a second because you talked about something that I thought was very interesting, and I don't want to drop it. You talk about like a revolving door type of situation where you have kids that will, be there and then they're no longer students in the district. You've talked about large housing complexes where I think you said like a one stop might have 72 kids getting on a bus, and that kind of, how do you deal with that? You talked about also, I think, somebody in the district who keeps you informed so that you're no longer routing for a student because they may no longer be, that how you're staying very connected to the administration to know who you need to be routing for, who you're not. Tell me a little bit about like how you're solving those problems, how maybe we're playing a role in helping you solve those problems.
Yes, the secretaries and I became really fast friends, especially with those. We have 4 schools out of our 7 elementary that have bus routes. The rest are walking, but those secretaries are using InfoFinder so that they can add the bus number and the route to the student software, and they send that information to me, so I'm adding and subtracting those kids off and getting the new route sheet or student count sheets to the drivers, so that they when they're missing a kid, it's like, how come I haven't had Susie so often on my bus, or what happened to Matt? They get that to me the minute a student's added or a minute the student is moving, and we can update that in the software and remove that student and get that driver their updated student count. And because of the high density housing, we have 38 languages spoken in our little district and quite a huge refugee presence. And so they are very transient in and out. And so those secretaries play a key role in being able to use that info finder to find out immediately when the parent comes in to register their child, whether they're eligible for busing or not. And it also helps with the high school as parents are registering. The link for info finders right there on our registration page, and they can plug in their address and see if they're eligible. That way they know whether they're close to a bus stop or not, if they can get on conditional ridership or space available before school even starts, so they know whether their child has busing or not. Because our state, with my state reporting, they have to be, the elementaries a mile or a mile and a half away from the school, or the secondary schools 2 miles, and sometimes it's 2/10 of a mile that they're just out of that boundary. So if they have a stop close to them, they know to call and get on that conditional ridership list.
Very good. Okay, so now a rapid fire question here. I guess we have a little bit of time. We're doing good, but this is not to sow seeds of discontentment. We're talking about thankfulness and what we're happy with what we have and all that. But now that you're in the seats you're in, some of you have been there not that long, some a little bit longer. But are there still things on that wish list, things that you'd like to see? It could be just you need another router, or you need more staff, or you'd like to see more. Travis talked about a nice collaborative atmosphere in his. Maybe one of you feel like I'd like to see more of that, or tools, technology, or anything else. Are there any? I'm going to start with you, Travis. I'm going to ramble a little bit longer to give you time to think, unless you're ready. But things that you'd like to see, again, not that you're discontent, but now that I'm in this seat, here's something I'd like to see for that next to get even better.
Yeah, and I'm honestly the type of person, I will always have things that, like, something more I want to see to improve and constantly do that. I agree from our earlier discussion. I do wish we had Wayfinder. I do wish we had StopFinder. Those are things we're pursuing. We just haven't gotten officially approved to, make that financial commitment and move forward. But to me, they're, no-brainers. I mean, the difference that in potential they both have is huge. One of the big things there is, like, I'm just trying to do workarounds right now. Yesterday when we were talking, Jeannie mentioned they use Parent Square. We use Parent Square as well. So that's been a big thing to me, is you got to have some sort of way to improve your communication with your families. because that's a huge difference maker. Like most families are understanding of issues, it's just communicating it, that they know what's going on and how to do that. So I'm able to do it with CSV files from Route Finder. So I'll just take a route, export to CSV, and then I can contact all those families. That's my workaround right now. I'm trying to think of other big needs. You know, we still are short drivers. We are making some wonderful, amazing things happen, packing those routes, you know, adding all these special programs, but I could still use another 5-6 drivers easily. Like I would build routes instantaneously if I had them at the ready. So that's still definitely a continued wish list.
Okay. You know, the communication is so huge. And if you, when we talk about like when we were, you know, when we first launched Stop Finder, just even part of that communication tool to help ease, you know, most parents are not necessarily happy when a bus is going to be late, but they're not going to be like going to Facebook to complain about it. If they just know, hey, there was a bridge out, we just want to let you know, or we had something came up that was unexpected, they're more likely to be just gracious about it. It's just knowing. And when they get like fearful or anxious or whatever, that's where like they can let their mind wander, and it gets, so just communicating those kind of things. Like we kind of joke about it that you can't over communicate, really. I mean, you can, but good. Thanks so much, Travis. How about you, Sean? What's something you'd like to see? It can be technology, it could be just other things that you want to see in your office.
I think just you know, we're at a point now where we've got people, we've got the tools. We're trying to, like I said, we're reworking a lot of the routes. We're just trying to pull everything, you know, pull everything together and just letting everybody know that, you know, we're doing okay. It's going to get better. You know, just keep doing what you've been doing, and you know, keep your faith and trust in us, and you know, we're getting to a better, you know, we're getting to a better place. Just be a little more patient.
Yeah, talk about like trust the process. Sometimes it's like you don't always see those immediate results, but if you trust it, then you start to see. Jeannie, I'm going to go out of order here. Jeannie, how about you?
Well, I know we have talked a bit about the tablets as opposed to having those, the paper copies. I watch my bus driver trainer coordinator, when she has a sub, hand the paper things to the drivers, which, you know, kind of makes me shiver a bit. But I know they have talked about that, and I don't know where they are in that process of implementing or getting ready to. It's just talking, and that's my wish list, is that we would have that, so it would be easier for those drivers to jump in those buses. Where we're small and we're, you know, about a 7-mile radius, it's not huge, and people that are familiar with the Murray City area really understand the street system a little bit better. Those drivers do really well when they get it, and our coordinator does well in matching up when she needs a sub, someone that is familiar with those routes on it. But I don't know what I need, because I don't know what I don't know yet.
And also, what happens when that coordinator retires? You know, we always talk about when that institutional knowledge heads out the door, how do you replace all that?
And I know they've gone through kind of a revolving door of that coordinator position. They've had 3 or 4 people in that position in the last 5 or 6 years. So it's not a super stable position that you know, but she's been in that almost 3 years, and so doing well with that.
Very good. How about you, Bill?
Well, I guess if I was going to wish for something, I'd wish that I could get this all implemented faster than I can. So, you know, that kind of puts it on me. But I have to learn it, and I have to get through it, and I want to use it. The Wayfinder stuff I want to use for my subs, especially. You were talking about that, Jeannie, a little bit. I don't like them looking at a piece of paper instead of looking at the road. So I would prefer to have Wayfinder in there so they can follow the route on a tablet. It'll give them turn-by-turn directions, stop-by-stop directions.
Okay.
You know,
Very good.
that's what I'm looking forward to getting done.
You guys can share this webinar with your higher ups when we're done.
Oh, well, I've got it. I just got to get it in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I need to get it implemented now. That's all I need to do is get everything in place on the buses and get people using it.
Very good. Well, thank you all. I want to real quickly, we're really close to the end here. If you have a story, anybody here who's listening, or you guys as well, our panelists, please share it with us. Send it to mystory@transfinder.com. And we're always looking for, whether you're a client or not, we're looking for ways that we can help improve transportation operations. I may even ask you to be on a webinar. Again, not everybody that's on the web as a panelist is a client. That's okay for now. Number two, we're going to have a quick poll. So next webinar, December 12th or December 19th. McKaylee, can you rock that real quickly? I'm going to give like 20 seconds. Is it, less than a week before Christmas or a couple weeks before Christmas? December 12th, December 19th. Lock in your votes. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. McKaylee, what are the results on that? Okay, December 12th is what our panelists told us as well. So you guys made that decision. So December 12th will be our next webinar. It's going to be very special. Until then, I want to thank our panelists first and foremost. Thank you for your time, for sharing all your insights and your wisdom. And I want to thank all the attendees as well. And I hope you all have a very, very happy Thanksgiving. We really do have so much to be thankful for. And we are grateful for you because we know you work so hard to transport our children safely every single day. So thank you. And just have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.